Welcome back to another deep dive. Today, I want to start with a scenario that I think is going to trigger a little bit of trauma for a lot of us.
Oh boy.
Okay, picture this. You run into a native English speaker. Maybe it's at an airport, maybe a coffee shop, or you're just waiting for an elevator. They smile at you and ask, "Hello, how are you?"
And immediate panic sets in.
Instant panic. Your palms sweat, and then, like a reflex, your brain spits out the only thing it knows.
I am fine, thank you. And you.
Ah, the classic English robot.
A classic.
Exactly. It's so stiff, it's unnatural, and honestly, it just kills the conversation before it even starts. We've all been there. You spend years memorizing textbooks, filling out grammar worksheets, getting that A on the test.
Right.
But then you step into the real world and you just freeze.
It's the difference between knowing the rules of the game and actually playing the game. You're operating on a script, not a connection.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We aren't looking at grammar rules, not today. We are looking at the behaviors, the psychology, and the habits that help you break that robot mode.
Yes.
The goal here is to figure out how to shift from studying a language to actually living it.
And the answer isn't what most people think. It's not about finding a better textbook or having a higher IQ. It really comes down to psychology, muscle memory, and some very specific, kind of sneaky behavioral changes.
I love a sneaky habit.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. It seems like the best place to start isn't with vocabulary, but with the brain itself, specifically motivation. Why do we burn out so fast?
This is the foundation. I mean, if you don't get this right, none of the other tips are going to work.
Uh-huh.
In psychology, there's this massive distinction between extrinsic and intrinsic motivation.
Okay.
Extrinsic is the carrot and the stick. You're learning English because you need a certificate, or your boss told you to, or you want to pass some test.
Or just the fear of looking stupid in front of colleagues.
Sure, avoidance is a strong motivator.
Yeah.
But for complex cognitive tasks, and learning a whole new way to communicate is about as complex as it gets. Extrinsic motivation just have a shelf life. It burns out.
Yeah.
Once the test is over,
The learning stops.
the learning stops, which explains why I can, pass a history exam on Monday and forget every single date by Friday.
Exactly. Your brain just dumps the info because it served its purpose.
Precisely. To really get to fluency, you need intrinsic motivation.
Yeah.
It has to come from autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Think about the golden circle concept.
That's the whole start with why idea, right?
Exactly. Most learners start with the what app should I download, what vocabulary list should I use, but they skip the why. And I need to pass the IELTS exam is, frankly, a weak why. It's boring.
So it's a strong why. Give me an example of why that actually keeps you going when the grammar gets tough.
A strong why is tied to identity and connection. I want to travel the world without feeling terrified. I want to understand movies without reading the subtitles. I want to make friends in a new country. When the why is strong, the how becomes manageable.
It's interesting you mention identity because we often talk about the stories we tell ourselves. There's this idea of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, it's huge. If you walk around telling yourself, I am bad at English or I'm just not a language person, your brain will actually sabotage you to make that statement true.
Wow.
It's protecting your ego. It says, see, I told you we were bad at this, so let's just stop trying.
So we have to kind of lie to ourselves.
In a way, yes. You have to start acting like the person you want to become. It's visualization.
Yeah.
You have to see yourself as a confident speaker even before you are one. But, and here's the catch, you have to be careful about who you compare that visualization to.
Right, the social media trap. You're scrolling through Instagram and see some guy who says he learned English in 3 months and now sounds like a news anchor.
It's deadly. And it's usually not true, by the way. But the best advice here is crystal clear. Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
That is a recipe for depression.
Absolutely. The only person you should compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Did you learn one new phrase today? Then you're winning.
Okay, so we fixed the mindset. We're doing this for ourselves, not for a test. Now let's get into the mechanics. There is this concept of the input hypothesis that seems to contradict how most of us were taught. We think, I want to speak, so I should just start talking immediately. But that might be backward.
It is backward. You can't output what you haven't input. Think of your brain like a sponge. If the sponge is dry, you can squeeze it all you want.
No water's coming out.
Nothing. You need to flood the brain with comprehensible language first.
But here's the problem I always run into, and I know I'm not alone here. I call him the middleman.
The middleman.
Yeah. You hear a sentence in English. Your brain grabs it, hands it to the middleman. He translates it into your native language. You figure out the answer in your native language, he translates it back to English, and then you speak.
And by that point,
The conversation has moved on 3 topics.
that lag is the single biggest barrier to fluency. It's exhausting, too. It uses up so much processing power.
So how do we fire the middleman?
You have to link the English word directly to the image or concept. When you see a furry animal, you shouldn't think of the word in your language and then translate it to cat. You should just see the animal and immediately think cat.
That sounds great in theory, but how do you actually train your brain to do that?
It's not magic, it's strategy. And one of the best ways, which always surprises adults, is children's books.
Really? Like, if we're talking The Very Hungry Caterpillar.
Absolutely. Think about why they work. They have simple structures, repetitive vocabulary, and crucially, illustrations. The pictures provide the context immediately. You see the caterpillar, you see the apple, you get the meaning viscerally without needing to translate. It just bypasses that whole translation center in your brain.
That makes so much sense. It forces that direct link. But let's be honest, not everyone wants to sit on the bus reading a toddler's book. It can feel a bit.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
Fair point. If you want to save your dignity, you use graded readers.
Okay.
These are books written with complex stories, thrillers, romances, biographies, but the vocabulary is controlled. It's tailored to your level so you aren't constantly reaching for a dictionary.
Because reaching for the dictionary every 10 seconds just kills the vibe.
It kills the flow state. And that's what we're chasing. When you're reading something so interesting that you forget you're reading in a foreign language, that is flow. When you're in that state, your anxiety drops, and your brain just absorbs the grammar patterns naturally.
I've felt that binging a TV show sometimes. You just get lost in the plot. But what about harder stuff? Like, if I want to read the actual news, not a graded reader, I get overwhelmed by the complexity. Is there a trick for that?
Yes, there is. It's called the 5 W's technique. This is for when you want to consume real media but feel intimidated. The mistake people make is trying to understand every single adjective or complex clause.
They get stuck.
They get stuck on the details. The 5 W's technique says, ignore the fluff, just scan the article and look for who, what, where, when, and why.
So if I can figure out who did what to whom, I win.
You win. You've extracted the value. If you don't understand the word precipitously, it doesn't matter. You got the main idea. It takes the pressure off.
Okay, so we're flooding the brain with input, we're firing the middleman, but eventually we do have to open our mouths, and this is where the biggest excuse comes in. But I don't have a native speaker to practice with. I live alone.
That is the most common myth out there. The idea that you need a partner to practice speaking is simply false. Speaking is physical. It's a motor skill.
Like going to the gym.
It really is. Your mouth is a gym. You have muscles in your face, lips, and tongue that need to learn new positions. English sounds require different muscle movements than Spanish or Mandarin sounds. You can train those muscles alone.
And it's probably better to do it alone at first, right? Less pressure.
Exactly. No pressure. One of the best techniques for this is shadowing.
Okay, can we break that down? Because when I hear shadowing, I imagine stalking someone down a dark alley.
No stalking involved, I promise. Shadowing is an active listening technique. You listen to a piece of audio, a podcast, a dialogue, and you repeat it immediately after the speaker. You're only a split second behind them.
So it's not listen, pause, repeat.
No, that's the key difference. You talk over them, almost. And you're not just repeating the words, you are copying the melody, the rhythm, the emotion, the pauses. You're trying to become a sound mirror.
So if the speaker sounds angry, you sound angry. If their voice goes up at the end of a question, yours goes up too.
Precisely. English is a very musical language. The meaning can change based on the stress and tone. Shadowing builds that muscle memory for the music of English, which is often harder to learn than just the vocabulary.
Now, practically speaking, if I'm on the train to work, I can't exactly start shouting out angry English phrases. People are going to think I've lost it.
That's where invisible speaking comes in. It sounds like a superpower, doesn't it?
It does. How does it work?
You just mouth the words. You move your tongue and lips to form the sounds. You exaggerate the shapes, but you don't engage your vocal cords. You make no sound.
So you're still firing the neurons.
You're still building the physical pathways for those mouth movements, but silently.
That's stealth learning. And with everyone wearing headphones these days, nobody would even notice.
Exactly. You can get in 20 minutes of speaking practice while standing in line at the grocery store.
Speaking of the grocery store, there's another solo technique called the Narrator Method.
This is a fantastic way to stop translating and start thinking in English. You just narrate your life as it happens. I am walking down the aisle. I am looking for milk.
It sounds simple, but it forces you to access vocabulary in real time.
It does. And you can level this up with the supermarket challenge. Instead of just zoning out and grabbing your items, you name them. Boneless chicken, dairy section, frozen foods.
Household items, spatula.
And here is the magic moment. You reach for something, say, a spatula, and you realize you don't know the word for it. You look it up right then and there on your phone.
And now that word is stuck in your brain because it's attached to a real experience. You're standing there holding the actual spatula.
Exactly. It has context. You'll remember it much better than if it was just word number 45 on a flashcard list.
And doing all this alone, talking to yourself in the mirror or the shower, it just removes that fear of judgment we talked about earlier.
Completely. Self-correction is so powerful. When you talk to yourself, there's no pressure. You can stop, stumble, try again, get the pronunciation right. It builds confidence so that when you do talk to a real person, your mouth already knows what to do.
Let's pivot to vocabulary specifically. We touched on context with the spatula, but this seems to be a recurring theme. Context is king.
It absolutely is. Learning lists of isolated words is just inefficient. The brain hates unattached data. If you try to memorize the word cold, your brain asks, cold what? Cold weather, a cold personality, a cold icod. It's weak.
But the water is cold sticks.
That's Velcro. The sentence gives the word hooks to stick to your memory.
There's a specific tip regarding sticky notes that I think is brilliant. Usually people just write mirror and stick it on the mirror.
Which is boring.
Yeah.
The brain ignores it after 2 days. It just becomes background noise. Instead, write a sentence. I look in the mirror every morning. Or draw a funny little picture next to it. Make it active.
Now, English has these tricky little nuance traps. These are the things that make you sound like a textbook instead of a person. One that drives me crazy is say versus tell.
This is a classic frustration. The rule of thumb is actually quite simple. Say is for the words. Tell is for the person.
Okay, break that down for me.
So, she said hello. The focus is on the word hello. But she told me a story. If you mention the listener, the person receiving the information, you almost always use tell.
That's a great shortcut. What about make versus do? This one seems to have no logic.
It does have logic, mostly.
Yeah.
Generally, make is for creating something that wasn't there before. Make a cake, make a decision, make a plan. You're bringing something into existence.
And do?
Do is usually for tasks, activities, or jobs. Do the dishes, do your homework, do yoga. You aren't creating the dishes, you're performing the task of cleaning them.
So I do the work to make the money.
You got it. You're creating the money, but performing the work.
One more thing on vocab, going back to our English robot. Instead of I'm fine, what should we be using? Give us some alternatives that sound like an actual human.
Real alternatives. Show some personality. I've been better. Can't complain. Pretty good. Or even just tired but happy.
Tired but happy is basically the universal adult condition.
Right. These phrases show personality. They invite connection. They show you're a human, not a script.
Okay, so we have the mindset. We're feeding our brains with input. We're training our mouths in the gym of shadowing. We've got the vocab hacks. But none of this matters if we quit after a week.
And this is where most people fail.
Which brings us to the final and maybe most important piece of the puzzle, discipline.
This is where we separate the casual dabblers from the fluent speakers.
Yeah.
We have to understand that motivation, that excitement we felt at the beginning, is an emotion. It comes and goes like the weather.
You can't rely on it.
You cannot. Discipline, however, is a muscle.
There's a visual method, often called the chain. I'm a sucker for visual progress. How does that work?
It's the don't break the chain method. You get a physical calendar paper, not digital. Every day you do your 15 minutes of English, you put a big red X on that day.
And after a few days, you have a chain of X's.
And psychologically, you just don't want to break that chain. It becomes a game. On the days when you feel lazy, when the motivation is gone, you look at the calendar and think, I just need to do 10 minutes to get my X.
But we are human. We get sick. We have emergencies. What happens when we inevitably miss a day? Do we just give up?
No, that's where the 2-day rule saves you. Missing 1 day is life. It happens. But never miss 2 days in a row.
Why is 2 days the danger zone?
Because 1 day is a slip-up. 2 days is the start of a new habit, the habit of not studying. If you miss Monday, you must do Tuesday. No excuses.
I like that. It's forgiving but strict. And for those people shouting at their speakers right now saying, I don't have time, what's the answer?
Dead time. We all have dead time. It's those in-between moments. Commuting, washing dishes, folding laundry, waiting in line.
The moments where your hands are busy but your brain is free.
Exactly. If you listen to a podcast or do invisible speaking during those times, you can easily find 30 minutes a day without changing your schedule at all.
It's about integrating English into your life, not carving out a separate study hour that you'll dread and eventually cancel.
And we have to be real here. It won't always be fun.
Yeah.
We talked about flow, but there is also pain.
Yeah, that frustration when you just can't find the word or you watch a movie and only understand like 50% of it, it feels like failure.
But it's not. That frustration is actually a good sign. Think about the gym again. The pain of a hard workout means the muscle is tearing and growing.
Right.
In language learning, that confusion and frustration mean your brain is rewiring itself. If it feels easy, you probably aren't learning much.
That is such a vital reframing. Frustration equals growth.
Yes, embrace the struggle. The struggle is where the fluency happens.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground today. We're ditching the robot, we're feeding our brains, we're training our mouths, and we're building a chain of discipline.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, I want you, the listener, to think about your future self. Visualize yourself in, say, 2026.
That version of you who can navigate an airport without sweating, make a joke at a dinner party, or just understand a song on the radio.
That person exists. But they only exist because of the small, boring, invisible actions you take today. Language isn't a trophy to put on a shelf. It's a living thing.
It's about connection.
Not perfection.
Connection, not perfection. I love that. So here is our challenge to you. Don't just turn this off and move on. Try one thing immediately.
Right now, do the invisible speaking on your next walk. Or narrate your actions as you make your next cup of coffee. I am grabbing the mug. I am pouring the coffee.
Start the chain today. Get that first X on the calendar.
And here is a thought to leave you with. If you stopped trying to learn English and started trying to live your life in English, even just for 10 minutes a day, how would your identity change?
That's powerful. Stop studying. Start living. Thanks for diving in with us today.
It's been a pleasure. Keep talking.
See you in the next deep dive.